Dun dun dun! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. All in crypto here, and this is going to be your daily cryptocurrency market update. Now, I thought I'd start this update off with a tweet from Robert Kiyosaki, somebody who I have great respect for. I've read most of his books, and honestly, I think that more people should. I think he's absolutely spot on with his kind of ideals about the world, with his sort of ideals about the monetary system, and you know, he's wrote books, Rich Dad Poor Dad, obviously, and then he wrote a great book called Fake, where it really highlights the errors of the system. You know, and naturally, somebody that's that way inclined in thinking would like Bitcoin, as it's really was brought about to challenge the kind of fakeness of the monetary system. But this was an interesting tweet that went out last night from Robert. Gold to crash. Steve Van Meter, whom I respect, predicts gold to crash to $1,000. He states markets are tired of waiting for gold to go higher. If gold drops to $1,000, I will buy more. I am an investor, not a trader. To me, gold, silver, and Bitcoin are real money. To me, cash is trash. Now, I'm not familiar, and I'm not a gold trader with Steve Van Meter, but we know that there's a massive correlation between gold and Bitcoin. Certainly, recently, gold's been leading the market. It does look like this is some sort of a bull pole. Have I got this drawn on? Sort of. That I think you're going to break out of. I think calling gold short from here is dangerous because you've got new all-time highs ahead of you with no price action to sort of keep you under. And if gold can pierce these levels, it's very interesting to me, and cross-market analysis is so important, that gold is at a resistance level. The S&P is at a resistance level that it's sort of selling off from. And so is Bitcoin. Now, to state that gold's going to sell off due to a kind of triple top, I think is rather interesting. The bond king, Steve Van Meter, seems to be arguing that a triple top is rare and bearish for gold, US dollars. But if one looks at gold in Japanese yen, we have broken a quadruple top and we are off to new highs. So my overall thinking is that the S&P, gold, are all gonna, and Bitcoin, of course, all gonna result in upside. You know, we ultimately have a upside target of 35k. I think that's gonna get hit. I think the inverse head and shoulders pattern that we had was exactly what we were looking for as a kind of reversal structure. So we took a punt back on the market before this had even formed, looking at weakness, looking at the potential bear trend coming to an end, and it's largely, I think, done that for now. Now, you can't rule out new lows. You can't rule out maybe a demand-destructive event. You know, that is coming, and maybe that coincides with gold at 1,000. However, I don't think it will. But ultimately, I think gold, Bitcoin, and the stock market are all on the cusp of breaking out. And generally, I think this year, I don't think the demand-destructive event happens this year. I think you're going to see a real shift. And risk's going to become the flavor again, basically. I really do believe that. You know, if you look at the 2-year yields, which I don't see many people talking about, we've been talking about it for a long time. It's actually what allowed us to buy back on the 5th of January. You know, look at what markets do when these top, typically. When the 2-year yield tops after a hiking regime, look at what actually happens. And this is stuff that we have talked about previously. Fed funds, we'll pop up the S&P as well, just to give you some sort of an idea of a market. So when the 2-year tops, go and look at what the stock market typically does. Stock market in blue. We've done all this quite a lot, guys, so I don't want to keep doing it. You know, you still had a further roll here, but once it had topped, actually markets, the S&P went on to put in new all-time highs. Is this top going to suggest the same thing? Potentially. You know, I ultimately have quite a decent macro view, despite all the doom and gloom negativity that's going on there. And actually, the thing is with a lot of this negativity, and it's not, I hate even calling it negativity, sort of doom and gloom outlooks, is they are justified in many respects. But actually, when do you want to buy a market up? Do you want to buy it up at the top, or do you want to buy it up at the bottom or close to the bottom? That's where I think you are for Bitcoin and crypto. I don't actually think Bitcoin's going to revisit the lows of 15K. We're wrong at the point of invalidation of the inverse head and shoulders. This is all stuff that we've looked at ad nauseum. I think this was interesting, and why I really want to start on this is because of the correlation with gold. I personally can't see gold going to 1,000. I'm not familiar with Steve Van Meter, so I'm not going to comment on what exactly it is he's saying, as I'm not familiar with it. He's obviously somebody that studies the gold markets and allegedly here is called the Bond King. Now, bond traders are kind of seen as elite traders in the trading world because, of course, you know, the bond market is so tethered to all markets, and they're kind of like insiders, I guess. But ultimately, I can see Bitcoin resolving. You know, we've looked at a number of things. We looked at a number of levels. You ran into the first. If you take the second one, look for the 25. And even a retest of the 25, to me, would be okay, providing you don't sort of stay below it and hit your head and look for downside. I'm bullish on crypto, guys. I don't know what else to tell you. I know there's a lot of people out there that disagree. I understand it. But I've been arguing with these people since 15K and really since the start of the year. And, you know, I believe that this is just a pullback that's ultimately going to result in further upside. I think this target is a target until it's not. I think 35K is going to get hit. And I actually think Bitcoin's going to be 40 plus K by the end of the year. You know, this is a crazy price prediction from Standard Charter. Bitcoin price may hit $100,000 by the end of year. A report from the firm noted that crypto winter is finally over and Bitcoin halvening is to be a positive catalyst for price. Remember, you got the halvening next year, guys. So things are going to start heating up. We've done lots of analysis, and I've not done it in a while with you guys. I'll see if I can find my Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory chart, which I don't think I can. I think it might have been this one. I might have got rid of it. But the 4-year cycle theory is centered around the halvening. I think that's all going to come into play. I think actually macroeconomically, and remember it's earnings week this week, or there's some big earnings this week, things are actually not looking as bad as they once were. And I think actually if we continue to get an improving data, we continue to see CPI, which, you know, if Britain's anything to go by, it might be a little bit sticky on the next one. If we continue to see an improvement of stats, the market gets confirmation, and ultimately all the doom and gloom and sort of catastrophic predictions go out the window. We've already seen, and I was very bearish really up until the start of this year. We've already seen people like Jamie Dimon, Paul Krugman, all come out and change their tunes and say, actually, we don't think it's going to be that bad. We've gone from a harsh recession, the worst recession we're ever going to see, to a mild one. You know, you do still have the yield curve, which is due to play out, by the way. Where is the yield curve? Is that it? No, that's 3 month. Okay, so this is a draw. I've obviously been trying to do something with this chart, but the yield curve, when it goes past the 100, the 0, negative, that's called a yield curve. And it's between the 10s and the 2s, right? This is accurately predicted, and we've gone over this so many times, every single crash that's taken place in history. Some of them, like the 2019 one, took 6 months until we had March 2020's you know what. Some have taken 2 years, you know, typically that's around the time. And actually, when do you want to buy the market? And bear in mind, every time we get a yield curve, there's a lot of doom and gloom. So if we just look at the inversions, the yield curves, and when they're at the kind of low point, confirming and looking at other things, I'll do a full report on this, by the way, and comprise all of this. You know, actually the markets haven't done too bad, typically, if you buy at the curve. You know, you can see this one here, point of inversion, markets actually went up, and the crash didn't happen until uninversion, which is what we're expecting. And that could be 3, 6, I think more like 12 plus months on the horizon. You know, point of inversion, look at what your market did. So on and so forth. So it's very interesting. I think crypto is actually, you know, even though it's very correlated to the macro markets, there's something that the cryptocurrency space has that the other markets don't have, and that is the fact that it's not even really a market yet, right? It is a market, but it's not a regulated, institutionalized market yet by any stretch of the imagination. We don't even have regulatory clarity, and we saw last week was one of the most bullish moments for me ever in regards to crypto, and that was because I never thought we'd get that kind of representation, or I did, but I thought it was still quite a while away. We'd get that kind of representation in a kind of congressional hearing setting against the SEC chair guy. You know, Gary Gensler, they absolutely decimated him. And I thought that was very bullish, and I thought that was very telling to where this industry's came from and where it's going. It is the big leagues, guys. It is going to get there, and at a $1 trillion market cap. I don't have coin market cap up here, but I can bring up the total too. $1.1 trillion market cap. I mean, the market cap's just going to look like Bitcoin over time. You know, it's going to do this again. You know, if this is the demand destructive event or whatever, this is what you're looking at. And this is the real value opportunity in regards to being a crypto investor right now. And speaking about regulations, Republicans move to take a regulatory power over stablecoins from Gensler. And Coinbase sues for SEC for answering a rule specific to digital assets. I think Coinbase are also doing something with Twitter that I think we'll report on, and watch out for my Twitter to look at that. So, to summarize everything we've gone on about, I actually think over the next 6+ months, you're going to see a 40K Bitcoin. I'm sorry. Some people don't want to hear that because they're still waiting for new lows. And maybe we get them. And if we did get them, that wouldn't be the end of the world, even for me, who's bullish and largely spot invested here, because we still always keep dry powder on the table to buy more. And that's what this is all about for me, accumulating cryptos that I believe in over the long term. So new lows aren't actually that much of a bad thing. However, I don't think you're going to see them. And I think you've got people that have been shorting the whole way from 15K and got decimated, now claiming victory at the most obvious pullback point you've had so far. I mean, 25K, also a big round number, 30K, real big round number, and a lot of historical price action there. Let's just see what happens. It's too late for the bears to call victory. I mean, I can kind of say we've called victory from 15K, but let's start from where we are now. Let's see what unfolds over the next couple of months. Data dependent, earnings dependent. We've got earnings. Earnings could be big. Could work both ways. Bad earnings, negative stock market, good earnings, good stock market. That's obviously going to trickle over into the crypto space. Dollar's slightly up. Dollar's something that we've looked at quite a bit. We did actually expect a bit of a pullback here. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Just looking for any changes here. Dollar might actually just shit the bed. Excuse my French. Yeah. I don't know. Dollar might actually. I'm not a big fan of big right shoulders. Anyway, guys, I'm going to love and leave you. I don't want to sort of go off on a thinking tangent whilst I'm... Dollar may... I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens, guys. So, yeah, let's watch the markets. Let's see how earnings unfold. It's not a massive week for data. And let's see what Bitcoin does. I could see Bitcoin squaring up here and going for continuation. I don't even think... Okay, that's still an okay scenario, retesting 25K. And that would still be bullish. Certainly if you bounced off it convincingly. But I don't even think it's necessarily going to get there. It might, expect it, prepare for it. But ultimately, you know, pullbacks in this environment, I believe, are a buying opportunity. And on that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you in the next.